No Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, it's your guy George right here, Renegade Report 1 on X, at the Renegade Report right here live on X, or on YouTube actually, not on X right now. But I've got my co-host with me as always, the lovely and beautiful Jen Santy. She's at Jen Santy 1890 on X, and of course you can find her right here. And our special guest today is FSU fullback, big game James Coleman. You can find him right here on YouTube as well at Den Media Group. He also appears regularly on Sporadics. He's been on here. He has been on here 5 to 10 times by now. But we appreciate you, James, joining us right off the bat. We're going to jump into the thing we've kind of neglected the past couple shows with all the court dates and stuff going on. James is, as a former player and a member of the media, has been able to be at a couple practices. He was able to hang out at the pro day. Has some unique insight into kind of, at least from a 10,000 level foot view, or, on the hoof, however you want to say it, kind of how this team looks like headed into 2024 as spring camp is underway. And we just had our first padded practice on Saturday. How are we feeling, James? What's the first impression? Is it a little different? Like, I know we're really kind of comparing it to 2022, because there's going to be a bit of a drop off there of the top line talent, but is it a little bit different with the athletic level out there?
Extremely different. I want to clarify something. Not media. Don't want to get in trouble. Don't want to get zapped. I am just a guy that used to play. That for whatever reason, people value my opinion on stuff, and I talk about it. But I have a show. I'm in media, but I'm not in FSU media. I just want to clarify that. Shout out to the Beat. I want to give them props first. They've gotten so much better at posting really good stuff. They were so bad for so long. And as a guy who loves football, has played it, had no idea why they would post those things. I actually thought they secretly hated us. And I'm like, but now they're doing better. They're posting things that we don't have to worry about getting picked on as much. And that's all great and fine and dandy. But I'll just say this. I went, and, I hear people rave, and I think what we've done before in traditional media, right, or traditional fans, we see something bad, we see bad for years, and then we just automatically say, oh, it's going to be bad again. And I've never been that one before. I've never been an overly optimistic guy. I've never been an overly pessimistic guy. I've just been a guy that likes to go and look at stuff, and I never look at how I think the season is going to go based upon how I see practice and based upon how I see the talent, what I think the talent level. Does the talent level match what our schedule is? And so I always look at it in regards to that. So I want to preface that. But, I'm seeing these guys rant and rave who, when we went into 2022 season, they were basing everything off of what they saw in 20 and 21. And again, I still remember to this day when I put out the tweet. It was like the beginning of March of 2022. And I said, wow, I don't really know how to explain it. This just looks different. And everybody went crazy while everybody else was saying, oh, we're going to win 7 games. I'm like, nah, 10-3. I said, we're 10-3. I said, I don't think we're better than Clemson. I actually didn't think we would lose to NC State and somebody else, but I said, I don't think we're beating Clemson, and I definitely didn't see us whipping Miami's ass like that. But it was just some things that I wasn't sure about. Moving forward, saw last year they were improved. I said there wasn't as drastic of a change, but they're good. And right now, I feel the same way about this team as I felt about the spring of 2023. I go out there, and what I'm looking for is, do we have 85 guys that fit the part? Like, do they, skill set, it's hard to tell when they're in shorts, but do they at least look like they belong? And what I saw out there was we got a bunch of guys that are out there that look like they belong. And the guys who don't look like they belong, there's a rational explanation. Like Jalen Lucas is petite. But when you look at Jalen Lucas's legs, he's got like all his weight is in his legs. Same thing with I think it's Jalen Brown, the young man from LSU that transferred in. He's 175 because he has no upper body, but he's got some calves. He has those are calf goals. Like the man looks good. But I'm looking at everybody else. I'm looking at Malik Benson. I'm looking at even Cam Davis and what he looks like. Looking at Luke Tomahawk. There's a video of Luke where somebody asked me if I was standing in a hole. I was like, no, Luke is just really 6'4". And I'm just watching these guys. I'm watching them move. And, it's literally the guys are looking great. And it makes me excited. And so what I try to tell people is, do we have a Jordan Travis? No. I think I might have been the only person or one of the few in the fan base who thought Jordan Travis was going to be that guy in 2022. People still wanted to bench him. Do we have a Trey Benson right now? In 2022, I just thought Trey Benson was big and explosive. I had no idea he would be what he became. Johnny Wilson was a huge target. I had no idea that Johnny Wilson would become what he became. We have a lot of that right now on the offense. But I will say where we are really blessed is on that defensive side of the ball. And they've made it very difficult these first 3 practices for our offense. And that was kind of what it was similar to like in 2022. You got AZ over there. You've got Fitzgerald Cypress. You've got Earl Little Jr., who looks really, really good. You got Conrad Hussey, Shaheem Brown, being extremely confident. Again, kind of reminded me a little bit of Jamie Robinson as he is right now, which is what he was supposed to fall into. But it's what they expected. But Hussey, Kirkland, even with Greedy Vance, again, he's maybe the more petite of the DBs, but he's still out there, scrappy. Where there's fear is that we don't have the depth at the D tackle spot. The guys like Josh Farmer aren't playing right now. Josh had some, had a little thing with one of the screws. Obviously, he messed his hand up. And he's so he's not out there. So they're rotating 4. I think 4 scholarship guys, 2 walk-ons, if I remember correctly. We need some depth there, but the defensive end room looks good. Like the defense is clearly well ahead of us right now. And I'm gonna be honest with you, as long as we got a good defense, we straight. The defense will put us in situation, will keep us in games, which it really pisses me the fuck off because I wasn't as mad as everybody else when we didn't go. I wanted to go. I was mad, but I wasn't like, I'm not finna go troll Kirk Herbstreit every day, mad. But like now that I see how fast our guys ran, shout out to my joking, my stepson, Akeem Dent. He ran a 4.38. I see 4.38, 4.38. I see 4.4, all this speed in the secondary, all this speed on defense. And I'm like, man, we could have probably they should have gave us. They give us the opportunity to get our ass whooped with those 12 guys who ended up not playing. So, but they look good. I'm impressed. I'm seeing the vision of Mike. Sean Murphy, for example, 4-star guy, came out of Alabama. We got him. Excuse me. I don't remember where he came from originally, but we got him in the transfer portal, Alabama.
Talk around him's changed a whole lot. Somebody's
looks good, and he gives us 2 to 3 years. So he's not a one and done guy. Like we don't recruit mercenaries like that. Very rare. Like Malik Benson is a 1 year guy. Brown is and he looks good, pretty decent. And he'll be a safety for us. Something that we're not really relying on. But I'm saying that to say is we got guys that will have 2 to 3 years, and I'm going to say it on your show. I say it on my show all the time. If we brought in a 5-star, right? Like let's just take Keem Williams, right? Keem Williams, we'll use him. Keem was a contributor last year. Keem will be a key guy this year. And if he does what he's supposed to do this year, and he does it, and he gets better next year, you know what Keem Williams is doing? He's bouncing.
Same time. It's the same time as your transfers. You get
so
2 good years.
So if we bring in Trey Benson as a sophomore, he gives me what I need his sophomore year. He gives me what I need his junior year, He gave me 2 years of quality production. It's the same goddamn thing. And the goal is to put your body to look like you belong. And put it in comparison, I had a friend of mine. He went out to Auburn. And this was his. Now, Auburn's not top of the SEC, but they're middle tier. He says we would absolutely beat the fuck out of Auburn right now. Just looking at both teams. And he came to the first FSU practice, and then went out to Auburn's. I think this is Auburn's like 5th or 6th practice. He says they have a couple key guys that look the part, but for the most part, we are a better looking team than most of our schedule, and that's all that matters. I mean, I think people and I get it, we're caught up in the old ways, but you either adapt or die. To quote The Wire, the thing about the old days is them was the old days. We're in a new day now, so you have to be able to utilize both.
Absolutely. We're definitely not caught in that past on this show, but we fight against it all the time. There's a new era in college football. There's 3 main components. You've got your retainment, you've got the portal, and you got high school. And you got to get the best players you can out of each one. And I know the viewers have heard me say that a million times. See a lot of comments about realignment and the court case and everything, and we're going to get in there, but we wanted to get this information and talk to James about practice before we get in there, let the room kind of fill up. I've got several guys I want to ask about. I'm sure Jen may want to ask about some different guys as she's down there having fun in the chat and hanging out. Look, Landon Thomas, you look across the board, you talked about a guy like Hakeem at wide receiver. The guys that are filling these roles in 2024 versus 2022, the level of athlete kind of across the board, when I look at it, that's kind of the big difference. People, even DJ, you to a certain extent, like you just mentioned it. I was high on JT. You and Chris were really high on JT, but a lot of people weren't sold. There was guys after 2021 that are saying, "Oh, we're never going to be able to recruit a receiver if we don't get a passing quarterback in here. We got to get somebody out of the portal." And we all saw how that turned out. So DJU coming in is like he's on another planet.
So I heard somebody tell me that, and I remember the whole the course of things with JT. He runs too much. Then it was, he relies on the 50-50 ball too much. And I'm like, why do you say that? Who told you that? Who are you? I know who you're listening to when you say he relies on the 50-50 ball too much. This is absolutely untrue. I said 50-50 balls are jump balls. Those are like basically a go route. It's an us or nobody route. It's not what he was relying on. We throw a lot of posts, a lot of digs, a lot of slants. Like it's just like it's not a jump ball. Nobody calls those jump balls except for people who aren't really experienced with calling or playing a game. Which is, again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think people work really, really hard to have unique takes, but sometimes those unique takes make absolutely no sense when you know ball. And if you know ball, it's just hard. Or you're trying to argue something to be able to get clicks. But now with DJU, everybody's like, "Oh, he's not good. He was a second choice. We wanted Cam Ward." I would have been cool with either one of them. I'm going to tell you this much. If DJ Ukulele, as I like to joke, comes in, gives us a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which he's done the last 2 years, and that's not a sorry quarterback. Sorry quarterbacks don't do that. But if he gives us 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, he's on par to what we've had before. We're going to be fine. We're going to be perfectly okay with what we need to get out of him. Now, I will say right now, you can definitely see that there is a learning curve with our quarterbacks. They are trying to understand what's going on in the offense, all the while playing against a defense that understands what they need to do, that knows where they need to be at for the most part, that can be more aggressive. So DJ's a little slower with his releases and where his decisions. Brock is a little bit too, but Brock's a little more comfortable in the system. Luke, outside of yesterday, Luke had a great first day. That second day, he didn't know what the hell was going on. Third day, he was obviously in full pads. He did pretty good. If you want to hear a very transparent conversation with me and Luke about what it's like, go to Den Media Group. It's only about 2 minutes, and you can listen to us just chop it up about what practice was like. And he was just like, "Man, I ain't never seen nothing like that before." He's like, "Guys were open in high school like that, but the minute I throw the ball, it's 3 people there." Well, I got news for you, Luke. The best thing that you're going to deal with is you'll never see. There's nobody that we play that will be that fast and physical in which you're seeing on a day-to-day basis, which is another thing that I have hope for. Don't turn the ball over. Be patient. Let our defense put us in situations that are good. So, and our offensive line is pretty damn fine.
That's one of the things about consistently upgrading talent every year and keeping the guys that make a difference. And that's what they've done. The only guys that are left from 2020, 2021, these are your Josh Farmers, your DJ Lundys, a guy who we almost lost. I was really upset about it. I didn't lash out or anything, but really, really hated to see that loss. And you're really thinking about what you could do. You wish the kid the best, but you end up getting him back, which was huge. And I think you've heard you talk about on a couple of different shows. He's really looked like he's just taking it on another level in leadership and just flying around out there on the defense. How has he looked? I've heard some of the young guys like Juice Crier have done well. Also, I don't know if you got to look at Daniel Lyons and KJ Sampson, as you talked about with that depth. Those are the kind of the two guys that we need to be what Joshua Farmer was last year. And to hear Mike talk about it, they flash, they make plays, but just not quite yet at that consistency level, play in and play out. And, like I said, we're obviously really early, but you hope to see those guys have a good year.
Odell can't recruit, man. Odell just got KJ Sampson as a 4-star prospect out of South Carolina, if I remember. Or was it North Carolina? Out of North Carolina, if I remember correctly. Kid that just needed to sit in redshirt. But, I mean, he's good. He's a, really good player. I think the thing that hurts us the most was, and I just think Io shouldn't have reclassified and came in. I just don't think he was mature enough to handle the stuff that was going on. And I think if you have an Io, that gives you that, because Io would have been good. It was a kid who was a 4-star as well. But Sampson has this body type. And if you go back, and I remember meeting him at an NIL event that I had to speak at when he came, like how we have our legacy weekend. He came to a weekend like that, and I was speaking, and I like body types, but I also like genetics. That's why I joke with, we made the joke about Jen. You said, Jen, I can't wait to see Jen. I gotta see if you're really 6 foot.
I am.
That's
she
crazy.
swears it.
But I don't think Jen has the body type that can help me produce an offensive lineman that I need. She has the height. We could probably have a hell of a skill player, but I do believe
basketball,
that
maybe, yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you have a white woman and a black guy, I don't know what happens, but something in the DNAs when they crossbreed, it produces a really good offensive lineman. But I looked at Sampson's mama, and the mama was a big country woman, and that man's daddy was as wide as the door. So that let me know that this kid is going to be a big Negro, and that's what we want. We want a big old joker, a big old Southern joker in there, and that helps. So, like, oh my God, I know he's going to be something. Same thing with Lions. Both of them look good, and Storm Sports Performance, I'm coming up with it. Like, we're going to build them a facility in Tallahassee. They've got to be able to do something in their spare time, man. We need that working because them boys look good out there. I just saw somebody put a picture of Farmer as a recruit and Farmer now. It looks, I can't even describe what it looks like. But even when I joked about Daryl Jackson, I went over and told him, I showed him the clip from my show, and I said, I'm going to start a program for 30 cents a day. We can go save a young man from the University of Miami's football program and bring him here and get him on a proper nutrition program. And I showed him a picture of last fall. He came in the fall. Anyways, whenever Jackson came in, I showed him the picture. And I was like, his arms were long. He's still big, but just smoother muscles. And then I showed him the video of him from day one in spring. And I'm like, dude, you look the same weight, just looks completely different. And those are things that you want on your D-line. So we're really 1-2, and then Colorado State kid is looking good. We're good on the top 5 D tackles right now. The problem is you need for depth, you need depth for practice more than you need depth for games. And because you don't want somebody to get overly banged up, get hurt, stuff like that. So we're good there. Crier, I knew was going to be fine. People judge Crier a little too harshly and I was like, look at when he came in. I mean, Crier didn't get here until right before camp. So, I mean, he's learning a lot of new stuff, but I liked what he was doing. What I was seeing before games, he's warming up, doing some things. He's a thumper. Our linebacker room actually looks better than what, again, Shannon can't recruit, but you got Crier was a 4-star. You got DJ Lundy's looking really, really good. He's about to have he's going to have at least one linebacker drafted, but both will be at fall camp with somebody. You got Sean Murphy, who really looks the part. Blake Nicholson was a 4-star. And even the guys who were Omar, I think Omar Graham is going to be fine.
Yep. Really, rave reviews on Omar Graham Jr. thus far throughout the whole thing.
Athleticism is getting better. The other two, I think that we, were tweeners and kind of maybe projects where we brought them in. But I still think that, that's why you practice. That's why you develop. Recruiting is going to, if you want recruiting to look like what it is down south, it's not going to look like that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All I'm saying is we were 10-3. We were 13-1. All signs showed us being minimum 11-1, possibly 12-0 regular season, 12-0 regular season. And then if you go and look at the 2025 schedule, you're probably looking at the same exact thing. So the results, the proof is in the pudding. It's just they're looking for not just body types, but a specific type of person, a mentality, and attitude. And that's all I can tell you. And I got 12 interviews with guys at the combine, all stressing that we didn't choose Florida State. Florida State chose us, and it's kind of it just having guys go through the process. If you're looking, they're not going to chase you all day. They're not going to jerk off little boys. What they're going to do is they're looking for grown-ass men to come in that want to make grown-ass men decisions and want to make some money and want to ball out. And that doesn't bode well for the nature of high school recruiting, but it does bode very well for transfer portal. Because in the transfer portal, and all this is not to exalt Deion, but Deion said one of the laziest shits I've ever heard in my life. But he was right all you're focusing on is the transfer portal. Because if you are focusing on the transfer portal, they got 72 hours max to make a decision about the rest of their lives. So but you still have to go in-home visits. You still have to recruit high school. You can't go get 30 transfer portal guys every year. So,
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with everything you said. Look, Georgia is about the only school out there left that just goes specifically high school. They keep all their guys in that are going to be a player for the most part, except for they tend to lose those linebacker DN / guys with that 3-4.
They've got 5 or 10 guys out of the portal. They've got 2 guys out of the portal.
Yeah, they've grabbed some, but it's not something they count on anyway like we do or other schools. But my point is, you don't have to have 30 guys. We signed 27 4-stars, which is right up there, even a little bit below with the top 5. If you can concentrate and get the 15 blue chips you've got to have out of high school, grab your 3 tackles, grab your 2 defensive ends, whatever the case may be, and you can replace exiting guys with experienced guys like a Sione Lolohea that comes in instead of praying that Bain can be the guy you need to play 800 snaps for you. There's just a big difference. And Mike Norvell, in my opinion, is at the absolute front of the line here. I've been beating that drum for going on 2 years now.
This right here, George.
And it's beautiful.
Check this right here. Florida State gets 8 to 10 drafted this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come back, they have the same exact year or similar year. They get 8 to 10 drafted next year. They come back 2025, get 8 to 10 drafted that year. What do you think is going to happen? You're not going to have to do all of that chasing. The proof is in the pudding. Right now, it's hard. And I see it with a wide receiver that I love to death. Hard to compete with Ohio State when Ohio State's got not only got guys getting drafted, got guys playing. You've got.
But they also have a top 10 portal class.
Right. Now, that's true. They definitely brought in a lot of guys, even though Alabama's about to snatch one of theirs back. But, imagine being the DB just next year. You'll see AZ, you'll see Cypress, you'll see Earl Little.
I think we can break the 29 player limit. It's going to be close in one of these 3-year spans, be it either 24 through 27 or 23 through 26. Norvell has a legitimate chance of breaking that 3-year draft record that stands at 29 players.
Somebody, I just saw in the comments, Grillmaster's been listening to the show. That's the OG Mike Norvell interview. Again, I don't judge anybody for what they listen to. I only listen to what the coaches tell me. When they talk to me, I hold them accountable for what they told me. But this was one of the first bars. And actually, if you go listen to the other interviews I just did for Pro Day, Yak, Coach Johnson dropped a hell of a bar too, about how sharing carries, what he tells people. But I don't have control over the stars when you come in. I only can control the star you are when you leave. Mike said that in the first interview that I had with him with D. Kelly, with Danielle Kelly, and it was, I'm like, damn, boy, you good. I was like, you are really good at this shit, and that's just the truth of the matter. But you have 7 guys on defense next year that if they chose to declare will probably all get combine invites based upon where they're at right now. And that's just me shooting off the hip. I'm probably wrong on that. Probably is more. But if Marvin Jones Jr. does similar numbers to what Jared Verse, his obviously where we want him to be is Jared Verse, Jermaine Johnson, somewhere in between that. But obviously you probably bounce right on that. So that's one. I can promise you Joshua Farmer's gone. If Joshua Farmer would have got 2 more sacks this year, he was probably gone.
Oh, yeah.
I promise you Darrell Jackson, somebody's going to give Darrell Jackson a shot. So that's your 3 right there. I think Lolo is a senior this year, correct?
Greedy's getting picked up. Lolo, man, I think I heard you talking about this maybe on CJ's show. I had to look up his height when I heard you talking about it because I had the same exact thought. When you look at Lolo Hayer trotting into practice and playing out there, he looks 5'8", but he's 6'4". Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. He's 6'4" and he looks 5'8", and that's not like a troll on him. Like he's just that thick from his like athletic stance. That just goes straight all the way up to his shoulders. It's really impressive.
He's short until you run up on him. And
yeah.
Then you're like, oh. But again, that's just the
excuse me, sir.
I don't think any linebackers will leave next year. Oh my bad. I apologize. DJ Lundy has to leave. DJ Lundy's going to go to the combine. I just told you the DBs. That's just the defense. The defense might actually be better next year than they were this year. Going on the offense, if DJU goes 3-1, DJU is getting a combine invite, and DJU will probably be considered, conference player of the year if he goes 3-1, because we'll be in the ACC championship with what else we have available on our roster. Roydell has the potential to do that. Malik Benson has the potential to do that. Murlock is sick. I don't care what Murlock does. There aren't very many. There aren't people who are 6'7", 240 just walking around this planet that play football. He's going to get a shot.
Yep.
Your offensive lineman, you got numerous offensive linemen that will get a shot. It's crazy. And again, this is not me saying that all of these guys are the elite of the elite. What I'm saying is these are guys who are going to get an opportunity to be able to play in the NFL. So what ends up happening is you keep seeing these guys. You see what the voice of everybody who was at the combine, if they were on the fence, they definitely were on the side of Florida State after they saw how all them boys ran and performed. And they all said, maybe you guys did get screwed. So what's going to happen is you're going to see if you go out and you see AZ run sub 4.4, Cypress run sub 4.4, Shaheem run sub 4.4. You see all these guys coming. There's no argument about your development. There's no argument about you being able to come there and play and get to the NFL. You literally eliminate whatever negative recruiting. That's why Kirby can do what he does. Kirby can say, Kirby's going to land the helicopter on your football field. He's going to walk in there and say, come get some bread. And you're going to have a hard time to compete against that, as well as win a national championship. So I just think some of the stuff will work itself out as they continue to be successful. But like they're not, and I'm not saying this is what happened with a former alumni son who was committed to us, but they're not going to chase you. They're not going to promise you that it's going to be all smiles and Hallmark cards, or you're going to be as good as your dad. They didn't do it.
We've seen it over and over again. Jordan Pride, guys like that. Look, and the same thing with NIL. People are all asking, is the Battles Inn really like that? What do you know? Do you know what their bank's really like? I can't talk to you about any of that stuff, but Florida State will pay top dollar for these guys, top of the market dollar for anybody. Nobody's going to not come here because Florida State can't afford to pay them. But what they're not going to do is pay double market value, $3 million for a guy who's worth $1 million. And that's all, these are numbers just throwing out there. There is no pay for play, but just on the market, they're not going to go crazy. Jen's got a cat down there about to give birth, but I wanted to switch to conference realignment, and then we'll come back and hit recruiting at the end. But was there anything you wanted to ask James about as it pertains to any of the particular players or spring practice before we switch over, Jen?
No, everything he said about Malik Benson and Marvin Jones Jr. is pretty much, kind of what we thought. And Earl Little did I miss this part? Did y'all discuss, was he injured or was that a rumor?
He's in a green jersey, which means he's limited. It just doesn't mean he's hurt. He's not
injured, but maybe a little,
He's banged up. We don't want to. We know what you could do, Earl. We don't want you to get hurt. We just need you to learn play and get a feel for stuff. That's all the green jersey means. It used to be blue jerseys. Not blue jersey. They put a blue what do they call them? Pennies. A little thing over your pads that meant that you couldn't we couldn't touch you. Yeah. But it didn't mean anything was bad. And then Mike does this, especially in the spring and in the fall camp, where he takes guys that he removes them so that other guys can get those reps. He's like, okay, I've seen enough. No, you know how to do this. Let's get you some more things. But he's running around and getting after it, man. I like Earl.
We are so deep at that slot.
How big is Cam Davis?
All of 6, right at 5'11", 6. He's my height. And he's 220. Okay, so here's what happened. So I walked on the field. I'm with Derek Ray. And I'm like, damn, that boy from Alabama looked good. That's number 3, right? He's like, huh? I said, no. I said, well, who the hell is number 3? He's like, that's Cam Davis. I said, bullshit. That's not Cam Davis. And that's when I tweeted out. I said, and then I need y'all to stop. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. My son is friends with a kid who is cousins with this rapper named Fulio here. And if y'all know about Fulio and Young Ace, if you got young kids, these kids here in Jacksonville, they rap about stuff and then they go do it so that they can make sure that it's real. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. My generation wanted to get out of the hood and did some things so we can make money to get out. These guys do stuff so that they can go to jail or die. I was like, I didn't know what the competition was to make as much money and then disappear.
Man, I'm telling you, it ratcheted up and ratcheted up. Something happened after I graduated in 2009. It seemed like the kids under us, I stopped going to parties and bonfires and stuff like that when I was around 22. The high school seniors were out there stabbing each other and hitting each other with beer bottles and stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to go to the bar where there's a bouncer. I'm too old for this shit.
We played football games in Jacksonville 2 hours before everybody else because of how crazy it gets here. So I'm not saying Albany's not like that. I'm just saying that doesn't scare my son. And all I'm saying is Mama Davis, I am just you could be like TT. That's over in Albany, man. We will drive over and I would drop both my sons over there for the whole summer if we can guarantee that they're gonna look like this boy right here. Because Cam Davis is a grown ass. That is a grown ass man.
If you're gonna look like Frank Gore getting ready for his Hall of Fame speech by senior year, figure that out. Whatever it is.
Somebody said he looks like. I said no, he looks like Frank Gore. And Frank Gore is what he looks like. And I was like, he got that. Remember the Titans face, that old man face, and just like he was around the civil rights, but he's definitely built like he been here. Like they said, that kid been here before. He is built like somebody who has been here before. I like him. He's fast. He's got vision. They're gonna have the damnedest time not putting him on the field. He gonna see that field. I see why, buddy, the other kid left. I would have left too. If I see them, and because him, Sam Singleton, Sam Singleton's gotten bigger. He's going to see these guys are coming for reps. And that's not even to exclude Lawrence Toafili. He's good. It's wild to say that we may be better at certain positions than we were last year, when we could potentially have one of the top 3 running backs in this draft. How do you say your running back room is better when you lost that guy? How do you say your defensive end room might be better when you lost Jared Verse, who's probably going to be who's a potential top 15 pick? How's your wide receiver room better when everybody in America knows who Keon Coleman is and all of this other stuff? So it's exciting. I need to go see some pads clack a little bit more, but they're in a situation where they're getting after it, man.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And as we get closer to the draft, we'll have to make some predictions, but there's no doubt. That's the beauty, like we've been telling our fans. The blue chip ratio is well over 60. The bottom 50 of this roster is at another level, and even the top guys, they're getting there. But we've got almost 100. We're at 140 people in here. We're at the 36-minute mark. We like to spend the first hour on the news stories and, what's going on, and then open up questions, put the phone line up a little bit there after an hour. So I figured a good way to start, one of the parts we really hammered on throughout this entire case, FSU versus ACC. We just had the court case on Friday morning. One of the biggest parts is going to be the motion to seal and the motion to dismiss. Those are your 2 major motions. And really, even though they're 2 separate motions, a lot of the same evidence is heard across each, because the ACC fucked up and filed without getting permission from its constituents. They just ran and raced to the courthouse when Florida State scheduled their bot meeting, and they filed in North Carolina. Well, in their kind of subsequent filings and amendments, then they've used like 3-4 different sets of language. And yet they really want this stuff all kept in the house. They don't even want the judge to be able to see it to decide for themselves. So I didn't get a ton of material, but you can actually, after you get done with us, you can go watch these things in their entirety. It's online. We'll throw the link up after we get done in case you want to, decide for yourselves. But we'll start with this link, and then we'll open it up with James and Jen and get to talking about Florida State versus the ACC.
In paragraph 126 of their original complaint, the ACC alleged the following as the reason that it had to file this lawsuit. It said, under the ESPN contracts, the conference is obligated to take all commercially reasonable actions to defend the grant of rights and the rights granted to ESPN under those contracts. Then, in its amended complaint, a few weeks later, after it took the alleged vote, the ACC said, being under an obligation to take all commercially reasonable measures, so it changes from actions to measures this time, to protect those rights, the conference filed its complaint. But then in its SIR reply, just filed on Monday in response to our motion to dismiss, as purported justification for why it didn't get the 2/3 vote required by the Constitution, which we already talked about. We got the declaration of James Ryan, the president of the University of Virginia, and he stated the following. Of course, it's under the penalty of perjury because it's a declaration, but he stated, in addition, under the ESPN agreements unanimously approved by the conference in 2016, the conference was obligated to take all commercially reasonable actions, back to actions, necessary to protect the media rights that were provided to ESPN. This contractual obligation and pre-existing authorization, in combination with the limited nature of the lawsuit, led me to conclude we didn't need a vote. Now, 2 days ago, Your Honor noticed, hey, the definition for commercially reasonable efforts from the ESPN agreements, it's not in the record. So how do I know what that means? And the reason it wasn't in the record is because the ACC chose not to give it to you, because that was part of the judicious decision about what to redact or seal. But when you read that definition, and Mr. Cooney put it up earlier, I don't have a slide for it, it is a far cry from the obligation or a pre-authorization to file this lawsuit that the ACC has alleged and that Dr. Ryan has now declared. And first of all, the term in the ESPN agreements is commercially reasonable efforts. So why did the ACC call them commercially reasonable actions in the first complaint, or commercially reasonable measures in the amended complaint? Why did Dr. Ryan call it commercially reasonable actions in his declaration?
Okay.
There you go. I know that was a little long. I tried to pick the best clip that was pretty clear of lawyer jargon and just kind of you could just really tell how ridiculous it is, where they're at with this thing. It's like they really think they're going to be able to redact it all and not have any of this stuff come out. But as cases add and cases add, we're going to get some information, and they're not going to be able to get this shit all sealed up. But we'll let Jen start with, because she's been kind of quiet down there. Sorry, Jen, we had to get James's info from practice and all. But what do you think when you see that, and kind of, how much have you changed since you've been able to kind of watch the full court case and kind of see it from the judge's mouth and not read it in text?
So I do think the judge wants the 2 court cases to stay with him since it's been filed there, but again, I still can't wrap my head around the fact that Clemson filed first. I don't know that you can legally make North Carolina the primary just because they're being sued by 2 of their own members. I don't know that that brings the jurisdiction from South Carolina, who filed it first, or Clemson and South Carolina, who filed it first, because Clemson was allowed, due to their laws, to do it on the sly. I don't think Florida State's own sunshine laws should keep them from benefiting from the fact that they were going to file first. But again, the ACC filed improperly at the beginning. They did. I don't care what anybody says. And like the judge said, you don't think it was material? The potential to lose millions of dollars should you lose? That is material. Any material lawsuit information, you should have taken that vote. And I think the ACC really screwed themselves by taking their vote on January 12th. That was a proof of guilt. It was a CYA. It's almost like running after you've been charged with something. It's an admission of guilt, right? That is why they allowed trials to go on when the person is running. I can't get around the first offense, which means I don't see how you can bring both lawsuits there, because the offense was so egregious, the ACC did, by filing improperly, and Clemson filed first. I do like this judge, though. This is not a slight against this judge. I'm not saying it would be a absolutely biased thing going on in Mecklenburg County. I'm just saying the law is the law, because you can't look at all these things and say, cool, let's let the ACC have their way. You just can't.
Yeah, before I turn it over to James, and I really want to get his opinion on this, one thing you said there about the fact, even though Clemson filed and you've got these other, and it makes him want to make ACC the home state, that may be true, and he may well, that may well happen, but I still believe the race to the courthouse will be taken out of it. I think you have a chance of a motion to dismiss, not not with prejudice, to where ACC can file again, or maybe it can go forward. But just because the North Carolina case goes forward, guys, that doesn't mean the Florida case won't go forward. There's a chance they both go forward, and then the federal court's got to fight it out. And even if that happens, you've got the North Carolina circuit in the federal court system, and you got the Florida circuit, so you're going to be fighting over that. There's a chance it could go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But for that to happen, there'd have to be a lot of discovery and a lot of back and forth. And as we all I'm not going to speak for James, but me and Jim both think the settlement's coming before we get there.
I had one more thing to say. I just was going to say that, yes, I agree with this, but I'm saying I do think a dismiss with prejudice or without prejudice would be the safest move. However, Florida State then can come in and argue, well, should you dismiss without prejudice and allow the ACC to take that vote and then still get that lawsuit in first? The vote is different. Circumstances have changed.
That's where we had our disagreement the other day, though. It's not first anymore. That's what the judge is saying. The race for the courthouse is over. Once it's dismissed with prejudice, no longer will the ACC, like you're saying, you're absolutely right. They wouldn't be first.
Okay, good.
Florida would be first.
Make sure. That's
Yes.
what I wanted to make sure.
Yep,
So
nope.
because to me
And he
the
said
vote
as
would
much.
change.
Yeah.
Okay, he did. Okay. To me the vote would change, so I just didn't, I didn't understand that part. But so if Florida State's lawsuit in Leon County gets ahead of time, right? Then that's kind of the law of the land. The ACC in Mecklenburg gets dismissed, and that means Clemson goes to South Carolina as well. I don't see how you can change this.
I mean,
Fact.
law is funny. It's a situation where the simplest part of it, and I think you just hit the nail on the head. And you stand. They said it wasn't monetary, but you stand to lose millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, if FSU is not there. So of course you had to do this. You did this, and the biggest thing is I can't sue you because I think you're going to do something.
Exactly.
Like, that's just not how it works. You can't. Even in criminal, like, I can't say, like, I think, Jen, I need you to arrest Jen because she's gonna stab me. Well, how do you know? I don't know. She went to the knife store, or she said she's going to the knife store to go buy some knives, but she says she doesn't like me.
Hey man,
but
they make Black Mirror and
like,
animes about that stuff. Like, that's post-apocalyptic shit.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you gotta have more than this now. Because even when Florida State, they filed before because they heard Florida State was having an emergency board of trustees meeting, which is not out of the norm for a university to be able to have things. Now, you speculated, you ended up being right. Florida State still took a little bit of time before they ended up filing it, but it was still days after it. And it's more so Florida State can argue we wouldn't have filed if you didn't file against us. So now you made us become the aggressor. And that's the main part of it. It's like, why did you file? Then they went back and you did CYA. You covered your ass. But the problem is how you did it. There's now even more information out there now, which can't necessarily be used in now. But if it does go to trial, do you not think Florida State's not going to use? Clemson didn't even vote. We understand why you didn't let us vote. But Clemson was a voting member that you decided to not allow to vote. Like, that's not fair. That's not how this works. And which means they did not have the vote in which they're saying that they are having. So this is going to be a lot of back and forth on the legal. Them saying that there are aspects of the contract that is open and aspects that's not. They have to be able to provide a better reason why it would be that stuff has to be not classified. I'm trying to think of the word, that you can't expose this information with our Sunshine State laws. But I really think a long-term court case does not help the ACC. And this is just really why I believe that they'll settle outside of the fact that nobody wants them to get to those documents, the discovery documents. Because even if, say, hypothetically speaking, again, you don't have to. The Sunshine State laws ain't the worst thing that can happen with us.
Right.
There were no Sunshine State laws, I believe, in D.C. where Dan Snyder was sued for the sexual harassment thing. Again, I always joke with people. You want to know why discoveries? I say discoveries of motherfucker. John Gruden had nothing to do with Dan Snyder's court case. But what happens is you get all this information and somebody finds something that's really, really interesting. Then all of a sudden, it's had nothing to do with the case. You have a friend that works for the Washington Post. And you say, hey, man, have you ever heard Dan Snyder? I mean, John Gruden doesn't like the commissioner, and that he has a propensity. He's against the community, the LGBTQTVYs. No, I never heard that. I'm going to let you look at this, and then you should go investigate that. That's how it works. And then what happens is you just open up a can of worms that you didn't even know was there. Somebody, because again, you asked for, I want all court, like if somebody sued Den Media Group and they thought I was talking bad about them, I want every correspondence between you and George. So I have to turn over all the text messages between me, George, Facebook posts, all of these different things. I might have said something like, man, you got this smoke show. You got this, man. Have you seen this chick? Have you seen this? And then all of a sudden, somebody hits me with like, now I might have beat my case, but now I got another case because they're mad that they lost the case to me. So it's a lot of things that go into this. Why people don't want why people don't want discovery, why people don't want to go to full trial, outside of the fact that ESPN is going to have to negotiate, I believe 2027, where the money's going to come from. They know they have the ACC by the short and curlies because they know for a fact Clemson don't want to be there. Florida State don't want to be there. North Carolina's trying to figure out transparent. North Carolina's figuring out how they're going to be able to get out too now. You done just shit on Miami by saying that there's only 3 Power 5 schools in the state of Florida. So now Miami was like, we want to be with the ACC. Now they're kind of like, hold on, man. The ACC don't even respect us. They put UCF in there, like UCF, Florida, and Florida State. It's like, it's crazy because they need to get rid of that. And again, like I always say, is if they would have just have a reasonable buyout number, Florida State pays it, Clemson pays it, whoever wants to get out, you take that money, you use that to go recruit and poach other places. Because just like we admitted inferiority to the ACC, and so not we, Florida State, the ACC admitted inferiority to the SEC and the Big Ten. Big 12 has admitted inferiority to the ACC by taking less of a cut than what the ACC is taking in the College Football Invitational. So that now a UCF could say, like, you know what, a West Virginia could say, we would like to be able to have a piece of that. But if they keep trying to press this in court, the longer it goes, now you're going to see the Big 12 go and poach them. You're going to see more people questioning the leadership. They are literally going to run. There's only one way to win this type of case. They are going to run your name through the mud and show how inept and incompetent you are as a conference and your leaders were dating back to Swofford. It is nepotism. And I'm all for nepotism when nepotism works. But this nepotism didn't do anything but make everybody less money.
Facts. And we're going to read this $5 super chat right on topic, kind of with what James is saying. Ryan Willie says, $5 again. Do you think UNC will file? I put it above 50%. I'm just a college football fan, the evil Badger. And I love this question. I think I agree with you. I think it could be somewhere around 50%, only for the pure fact of if I'm to believe everybody I talk to, everything I've heard, UNC is pissed. Like, they're mad. And like James, like Jen, like we've all talked about, when you talk about discovery and running the ACC through the mud, you got Clemson trying to do it. You got Florida State trying to do it. You got possibly a UNC trying to do it. Well, you think UNC doesn't have some discovery just already in their fingertips, some damning emails, et cetera, from the time, a lot of the issues, a lot of the people at the ACC, within Raycom Media, these are UNC people. So, we know how these small towns are and these kind of country club areas are. They all know where the skeletons are buried and things of that nature. So I don't know if North Carolina ever ends up filing suit and FSU settles with, or ACC settles with FSU and Clemson. But I do think UNC is gone. They're done. They're going to the SEC is my guess. But whether it's the SEC or the Big Ten, they're in the same boat, not to the same level as the FSU or Clemson, but they do have the value and the kind of future sight kind of evaluation from people that know these things, like our buddy TJ Altimore, they have that value. And for somebody like Bubba Cunningham, who is spitting vile about Florida State every chance he got the past couple of years, to make the comments he's made, and go for there, guys. But I really like that question from Ryan.
You want me to go? I mean, I do think that UNC is the most valued from both the Big Ten and the SEC. Whether we like it or not, it is what it is. That is the most valued. And I don't, I think if North Carolina wanted to come out today, which they legally can't, they can't because they're attached to NC State. They really can't. Mm-hmm. If they could, and they came out today, they'd have a bidding war between those two conferences if they did. And it would be public. It would be ugly. Whether we all agree with it or not, it is what it is. But I do think Florida State is number 2. I mean, other people say Virginia. I did see a Pete Thamel report talking about Florida State is not valuable to the Big Ten. I know everybody should be stunned with ESPN coming out trying to bash the only team that makes money for the ACC network. And by the way, I do look, I'm here with Clemson. We're simpatico for the moment. But Florida State's viewership in the ACC network, you just have to do the numbers. Of course, ESPN says Florida State isn't valuable to the Big Ten, because do they really want them to go to Fox? I mean, find me stunned that someone like Pete Thamel would say they're not really worth anything while trying to keep them on the ACC network that's dwindling and nobody watches except for Florida State, and then Clemson is a far number 2. So unless you watch lacrosse in the mornings, that's it. That's what the ACC network does for you. That's it. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know. I think all of it is kind of, it's getting a little messy. I think that Florida State's attorneys did really well on Friday. I do think that they, landed some punches. I don't know. You guys tell me what do you think?
I didn't get a chance to see all of it. I just saw bits and pieces of it. I think it's about the crazy part about with us, it's about what's actually legal. And we always feel like it's the beautiful thing, like court TV is like they do a good job, because then all of us like, ooh, that was a good job. Like perfect example was it's not to make it political, but Trump's getting prosecuted in Atlanta, and then they found the lead prosecutor. She was sneak dicking, and they put her up on. And I applaud his attorneys. Do everything you can to stall it and get it out. It has nothing to do with what he's being sued for, but I'm with it. But then when you start looking at all of the stuff and the accusations, and it sounds really cool if this was Real Housewives of Atlanta or Potomac or whatever the other shows are. But when it comes to a legal situation, the only thing she did wrong, but when she was married, I guess that would have been wrong. Only thing she did wrong was she got some dick on the side. And that's not, and she kind of played it too close. Too much of a colleague. You can't contract somebody. But the funny part is she legally said it to where she knew she can get some from him, and that's not her employee because he's a contractor. I say all that to say is when we're watching the ACC, this trial, we're listening to stuff and like, ooh, man, that was good. But did it have the bearing, and could we prove it? Is it true? Did it really, really happen? And it's not about how he felt. It's an actual slight. And I think our lawyers, when I read what we laid out, like those are all things that you can legitimately say, hey, how can we defend ourselves against something that we don't have or we don't have access to? And then the response, oh, well, they can have access to it. Well, then where is it? Oh, well, we can't let you see it because then if you see it, then other people see. It's just crazy, man. It's a thing where some people, they're using gray area, but the judge has to look at it as black and white, even though he's still a human. And I think the one thing I can say is that from what it does look like, the judge is actually not a homer. It does feel like it's a fair thing, which is why sometimes I do. Our court system isn't perfect, but it is sometimes it's more balanced than what it was in the past. But I think somebody asked about North Carolina. I think North Carolina is examining every aspect, just because, like what Jen said, fiscally they're attached at the hip with the other state schools, which NC State. But that's where they're voting now to see if each entity can make their own decisions based on everybody has a board. They have a board of governors, I guess, that covers both of them. But then each school has their own individual entities that judge them. They're trying to see if they're in charge of the biggest word I love saying it with glasses, the fiduciary responsibility for the university. And if they can get that, if North Carolina can get that part like set in stone that we control our own monies, then they're going to start looking at their exit and their path out of the ACC. And if that breaks up, whew, that would be crazy.
Without a doubt. We're right here at 59, 55, 56, 57. So we're going to throw the number up on the screen. We usually go an hour 15, an hour 30 this time of year, but we'll play it by ear. As always, we appreciate Big Game James for stopping in and giving us some of his time. If you have any questions for me, James, or Jen, it can be about the court case. We can keep rocking and rolling for that. Or if you have anything, any questions about the pro day or anything like that, feel free to ask. And you know the number, 850-495-1906. Again, it's flashing across your screen. And Jen, I will leave it to you. Is there anything you got on your mind? What's Jen want to talk about? Anything pertaining to the case? I know I've been kind of narrow with it.
I think the judge is going to make a decision a little sooner than I think it's going to be like a Tuesday, Wednesday thing. And so maybe we'll see. I think we'll see on Tuesday, Wednesday.
This Tuesday, Wednesday? You think? Let's see. What's the date?
He
said he was going to have it before the 8th. So
yep.
That would be the 25th and the 26th. So you don't think the Tuesday of the court date, but like literally in a couple of days, you think?
I do.
Okay. Sell us on it.
I think he's going to take the weekend. This judge, notoriously, if you go back and look at his decisions in these sorts of cases, he takes about 3 to 4 days, business days. And I would say Tuesday, Wednesday, that gives them 2 to 3, really. This is a huge one. And if he's going to dismiss, look for it. Let me think here. I have this all set out in my mind. Sorry, guys, my brain just fried. Okay, so if he's going to dismiss, I would say look for it Tuesday, Wednesday. If it's going to be a stay, I would say look for it the Friday to the Monday before the April, the one in Leon County.
Okie doke.
That's just where I would go.
That's it. You don't want anything about the case, anything about realignment you want to get at? I wasn't really asking for a prediction. But
No, I know. I just I think I've said everything about it. I think UNC will file soon. I think they are going to see what that judge in Mecklenburg County decides before that April 9th date. I don't see UNC doing it next week. Again, they're tied to NC State. They cannot leave unless the Board of Regents in the state of North Carolina takes up their offers and says, okay, cool, you can go get other offers. Either you have to take NC State with you or you have to find them another spot. That's it. That makes the same as what they're making now.
All right.
You can't leave them in a bad financial situation is basically how that law goes.
Well, I guess we've waxed that or wrung that lemon out. If you have any questions, again, the number's up there. We'll answer anything. I want to get into recruiting a little bit, but we have a question here from Karen Smith on the pro day. She wants to know, who do you think will pick up Akeem Dent? That's really hard. I don't know if James got to talk to a bunch of the GMs and stuff and really parse through that for everybody. But as far as where in the draft he'll go, as far as what round, I guess could be a good conversation. I think based off of what they did at the combine, and you were able to see that firsthand, the rest of the guys, I think that really goes to, putting credit on Akeem Dent's name for being able to start in that defense, even though he was a little injured. So how are you feeling? Could he sneak into a 3rd or 4th round pick, or is he somebody that's going to be, waiting around on the last couple of days?
Ooh, 3rd, 4th round be high.
Yeah.
I think he's the third day guy. I think he's a 3rd day pick. I think somebody will, it's not a gamble, I don't think. I think somebody will put 6th or 7th round pick on Akeem Dent. And I think typically you'll stay home. He said he talked to 20. When I talked to him, he talked to 20 NFL teams at the Hula Bowl. So he's been talking to teams constantly, and he's got some private workouts set up. So that 4.38 helped. Definitely helped. I think he had close to like an 11-foot broad jump. He jumped well. He ran well. He performed well in the drills. He he did tremendous. And just a great attitude. He again looked good, moved well, and he has enough film and he's played enough, and he has obviously having that high recruiting grade coming out of high school is going to help him as well. So when I was talking to him about not going to the NFL combine, he was just like, it wasn't that big of a deal. He felt good, excuse me, because he's talked to enough teams. So, but if I had to guess, I think Miami tends to find a guy that stays home. And this is the benefits of playing at a Florida State and doing well at a pro day at Florida State. Everybody's going to be there. So all 32 NFL teams were there. Almost all the GMs, most of the head coaches that were participating in pro days. Because some head coaches are just like, I ain't doing that shit no more. I'm just staying home and letting my scouts do their job. But it's got a lot of good feedback, and I'm going to try to go. There's some good form. I know quite a few GMs with my coverage of the NFL, but it also helped when I saw Martin Mayhew, former Nole, actually for double Nole like me, Florida High Seminole. Well, he was a Demon. They were the Demons then, but still Florida State University school. Then he went to FSU, and now he's in the he's right in the he's with the he's an assistant GM for the Redskins right now. My bad.
Working as what? Hey man, I don't think it's that you're bad. I think they're literally suing to try to get that back. So if you ask Dan, he's going to tell you they are the, what they were formerly called. I won't even, it's not even worth saying it again. But no, I agree with you guys. We got a $20 super chat, and I want to, before I forget, mention that Jen threw out a 5 free memberships. So congrats to whoever picked those up, and look out for some more in the future. But yeah, I think Karen was right in her question, even though I didn't really have an answer for her. And, James kind of talked about it. Only takes one team. So maybe he could bump up to a 5th, sneaking something crazy high. If there's, somebody that needs that safety, that he checks all the boxes and they're willing to take a chance on the, the kind of durability, he could go. But yeah, I agree with James. But I do think he will get drafted, but it'll probably be that 3rd day guy. But again, let's throw it back up here. $20 super chat from my guy, Jeff Hill, the OG who makes it rain on all these programs, Den Media Group, Spear Addicts, the Renegade Report right here. He says, if North Carolina gets into the fight, sues the ACC with a tree of all 3 lawsuits as one, or lump it all together with what may be many lawsuits, will that slow down the process, or can that speed it up? I definitely think that is going to slow it down ultimately, especially at the North Carolina level. I'm not sure if that's going to motivate the states to move at a faster pace, but especially in South Carolina's case, they were able to file first. I don't know if North Carolina is going to have to kind of report or anything like North Carolina. If they do sue, they'd have a good chance to sue first, because the ACC is not going to be able to get away with pretending like they can just sue without their members, just because they find out about something. Because the same argument, and I should have talked about this earlier, the same argument that the ACC makes about all that is, okay, well, Florida State could have said the same thing. As soon as we found out there was a meeting that they were going to ask for their members, we knew we needed to sue. So they could, so we needed to sue without asking our board of trustees. We can skirt the Sunshine State laws, but that's not how it works. In Florida, you're held to a standard. The standard is a standard in law, just like it is in football. So that's where I am on that. And I'll give y'all, since it's $20, everybody can answer it, or we can move on. What do y'all think about that? Will it slow it down or speed it up when North Carolina does enter it?
I don't think it slows it down. I think it because again, the only people who move slow in this situation are the ones who stand to lose things. I think ESPN will wait. Like I tell people, ESPN didn't file anything. They just waited to the last possible moment to put something in, and that's typically what happens in civil cases. Like, they give you 30 business days, or they'll give you this amount of business days, and typically you submit it right at the end, and then you keep waiting. But I think like when ESPN when they submit something, Florida State's submitting something right back to keep pushing the process. But I think the problem comes in is they're not going to join it all together. All the schools will have to come. That's called a class action lawsuit. Like, we would have to all come and say, you know what, it's in our best interest to merge our power and our resources. But all that does is help the ACC and the ESPN. That would bump it, I think, automatically to federal. But like, now all they got to do is focus on one fight. Right now, make them spread out. They're going to have multiple cases in Charlotte-Mecklenburg court. Then they're going to have to go to multiple states, which all that does is tap their resources in their pockets even more. And all you're doing is showing ESPN that nobody wants to work with you. The longer this goes, the more you're going to see other teams say, all right, well, let us jump in on this. And each time, you're going to eventually lose to somebody, whether you lose to Florida State or not. Let's say they beat us in North Carolina and in Florida. Well, now Clemson literally has a blueprint of what didn't work. And but ESPN's case isn't going to change. What did they do right? Where do they need to go attack even more? And now you're doing that. Then somebody else is doing that. And all they got to do is show one, and eventually the conference will fold. It's just, I think I forgot who was it. When I had Doug on my show, the biggest thing that we all know, and ESPN knows this, is that Florida State, Clemson, all of these schools, they have nothing to lose. We will not be in this conference. We know there is an effective end date to this conference, and that is 2036. At worst, we're getting out in 2036. They know it. We know it. Everybody else knows it. So there is not another contract that they can negotiate to make this bigger with them knowing we're leaving. So the suit, all this is doing is helping expedite the inevitable. Now, if ACC wants to wait that long and play the long game and know that it's coming to an end, God bless them. That's stupid. But the quicker they get this settled, the quicker they can do whatever they need to do to try to salvage the conference and do the best fiscal thing for themselves to keep them working. But, hey, what do I know? A lot of people were saying, including Clemson fans, this is a frivolous lawsuit. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Until their school sues. And the problem is, in our trolling nature of America right now, very few people are actually looking at what's being said, and they want you to just take status quo. Because, unfortunately, nobody wants you to be – as long as you're doing worse than me, I feel better about myself. The problem is winners don't operate like that. Florida State knows their worth. We're going to go out here and we're going to get this bread.
Boy, is that ever an epidemic from the top to the bottom. I like this comment by Antonio Baker. He says, ESPN needs to worry about being exposed with the double dealing they've been doing. And this is highlights something I want to point out. Kind of the difference in ESPN's kind of small part in this thing and the ACC's argument. And this is my opinion. We'll let Jen go. And James said he didn't get to see as much of it, but if he wants to speak on it, he can. When you watch the trial, ESPN, like, they do not want any of this shit going public. But as far as it coming out in court under a sealed order and the judge getting to see it all, I get the feeling ESPN's fine with that. They're not going to go to war. They're going to throw their hands up. That's fine, Judge. If you want to see it, if you want to seal it from getting public and you can make that promise, yada, yada, they're going to go and do that. The ACC is the one that's more wanting to just redact everything. We don't want any of the communication known. We don't want this known. We don't want that known. So didn't tell me if I caught that kind of wrong, but it sure seems like to me that the ESPN is ready to cut their losses and say, we don't need till February 2025. We're done. We're out. And that,
Look,
that changes it to 27 versus even 2036 in the future.
Look, I think if FSU gets out, ESPN is cutting those losses. It's not about Clemson adding to the lawsuit. Florida State leaving changes what ESPN does with the ACC network, and that's due to the ratings of the ACC network. If you take Florida State fans out, people are not actually looking at this point enough. Even Clemson is very close to Florida State in viewership in the ACC for game numbers. But if you talk about ACC viewership, there is only one team that drives that whole channel. One. Please, y'all, go look at the numbers. Go look at the numbers. It's absolutely absurd. There is one team that drives the ACC network. and it's not the ones that get up on Sunday mornings and watch women's lacrosse. No offense. That's just not what it is. No hate on women's lacrosse, because you are a better athlete than I could ever be. I'm talking about the viewership, and I'm talking about what drives everything that I'm doing. What you're doing, ladies, is amazing. However, boardrooms like to make money, and that is what it is. But this is the whole thing of what ESPN is going to do. They're going to then say now, oh, well, Clemson's entered the lawsuit. Clemson is the number one value, right? They're going to sit there, promote Clemson, because in my belief, I think they have every intention of moving Clemson to the SEC. I hate it, but I just think that's how they're going to go. And if you guys start to see them continue down the road of what Pete Thamel said earlier today, Florida State doesn't really bring that much value to the Big Ten. Clemson, on the other hand, right?
Pete
Clemson,
Thamel's full of shit too. I got to read that.
Look, I'm just telling you, this is how they're going to do, and nobody should be surprised that ESPN is doing this. They're
The
going to try and
directives they give reporters, it's so obvious.
Absolutely. ESPN is going to try and usher Clemson to the SEC, probably for a smaller share, Clemson fans, not a full share.
Do we want to get?
Is,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm just going into the whole. Yes, all of these reporters are going to build up Clemson now that Clemson is filed and say they're way more valuable, because ESPN knows that. And again, if North Carolina files, you're going to hear all that. North Carolina's number one, Clemson number two, Florida State is far behind on three. They bring zero value. That's what ESPN is going to pull, because ESPN knows that Clemson, UNC could come there. Florida State ain't coming to the SEC. I just don't see it. And they're going to devalue them because they think they're going to the Big Ten with Fox.
Yeah,
this has
not good.
nothing to do with what is actually going on. This is a propaganda. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to make much of a dent with that. The numbers are all very clear. They can make, Pete Thamel can write as many arguments or articles as he wants. It's not going to keep Fox away from the negotiating table. And speaking of ESPN and our friends over there, do we need to get into the Kirk Herbstreit apology? Do I need to read that for everybody out there? Did y'all accept that? James, did you accept his apology? How do you feel about that? Because, I mean, he's just been taking personal shots, the poor guy. I mean, you can here, I'll read it. I'll read the fucking thing. Here we go. Here's Kirk.
You gotta do a crying voice. Okay, he's doing it. Okay, good.
Jen,
sorry.
We'll try this one more time. I've been trying to take personal shots from guys like you for months. I know there's nothing I can say that will satisfy you, but I would like to respond. Just want you to know that I'm sorry we had a disagreement about teams at the end of the year. I've never been a guy that tries to intentionally upset his fans with my comments. I've always tried to be professional and respectful. I'm not even going to read this whole thing. No matter how many of you come at me on here, I've got nothing but love for the Knowles brand and wish you the best, always. I mean, he's just so full of shit. I mean, I used to like the guy.
Just stand on what you said. Like, you said it. I don't get it. Like, everybody. This has been me forever. To quote the great Kanye West, don't ever fix your face like collagen to say something where you're going to end up apologizing. And I'm not going back and forth with everybody. I said what the fuck I said. Like, stand on it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But the fact that every day, and I wasn't going to say anything to Kirk. And I remember I responded. This man it's the guys with the dog in their picture or a fake pic. They got less than one. I have a rule. This isn't me being bigger than anybody. I just have a rule. If you don't have over 100 people following you, I'm not going to respond to you. And the reason why is because I don't know if you're real or not. And your picture's not there. You could be fake. You could be anything. Like, my guy is over here just like that one person said something, and then that's what you quote tweet. Like, you just made that whole person's day. When I have conviction and I said what I meant, That's it. I'm not arguing with everybody all day about this same thing. And if I'm doing that, that means I really feel guilty, or what they're saying has some merit. And like, I don't get it. I really don't understand why he keeps going back and forth. And he keeps responding, and so now people get their rocks off on him. Like, it's funny now. Like, you posting your dog, and now one person did post something. I never thought about it like that, but it is kind of funny. Anybody who has like 3 of the same breed dog in their house, the same breed of dog in their house, like, probably got bodies in their basement or somebody tied up in the room. Like, it's the same. It's the not breed. Excuse me. He got 3 of the exact same damn dog.
Man, he's got, I think there's 4 or 5 in this latest picture.
I love my Beagle to death. I loved it more after I watched the first John Wick movie, because my Beagle looks exactly like the Beagle that John Wick's wife gave him and that the dude killed. And once I saw that, I understood the whole movie, because if somebody did that to Charlie, everybody got to go.
Oh, man, yours was named Charlie. We had a dog that lived to be like 25, a mutt named Charlie. Only time I ever seen my stepdad cry outside of his actual father passing away was the dog. Charlie was the shit, man.
But now, every time I see Kirk do this stuff, I'm like, Kirk, you're entirely too busy of an individual to be like. I'm nowhere near on Kirk's level, right? If I put my phone down and like don't look at it for like an hour, I'll come back and it's just entirely too many damn notifications for me to scroll through all of that. I'm not intentionally ignoring some of you. I just didn't see it. I'm going about my life. Same thing with Facebook. After about 2 hours, I'm not responding to anything. And I know I say some incendiary things. And people are talking and they want to feel their opinions heard. I'm just don't like, it's 100 comments, bro. I'm not reading all that. I'm not in college anymore. Kirk is not. You can't tell me, Kirk, like, you can't just, or here's some free game by Big Game. There's like the little dots on the app. And I just found out I still have the bird. I might be the only person in America that still has the bird on my phone. I don't have an X yet. But
no shit. You haven't updated? Wow, you're holding out, cuz.
Let me see if you can see that.
I held out for a couple months, but yeah, that's nice. If there's a bootleg version to re-download, I need to find that, because
I don't want to do it. I like the bird. I like bird more than X. But you click on that dot, and then on it, it says mute the convo, or mute this thread, or mute this person. And you push that mute button, and you'll never see that again. It's the most freeing thing you can ever have, dude. But that's because Kirk knows he's wrong. And that's just, there's nothing more to it.
Yeah. So, by the way, you guys both said you had beagles. Do you have a beagle, James?
Yeah, I have a beagle.
I had one too when I was young, and I had a beagle with the best name. Its name was Baskerville, like Hounds of the Baskerville. I loved that book. It's like one of my favorites. Sorry, that's a Sherlock Holmes reference in case anybody cares. But yeah, I had a beagle too. They were great. They just maybe were a little too smart for me. Just gonna leave that on the table. I think they are a lot smarter than people think they are.
Oh, they're incredible.
Yeah, they're wild and they love to get into mischief, but they're amazing dogs. So love that. Rest in peace, Baskerville. Always remember you. But yeah, with all that like we're sitting here talking about this, like with Kirk, why in the world? Or I think, okay, so a lot of people say, why in the world are you responding to this person with this many followers? I think that's exactly the reason why he's responding to that person with that many followers. I don't think he would do that to somebody with even like a 2,000, even with, a 5 to 10 to 20. I don't think he would do that. I don't think he would have the same response. I think he feels safe responding to this with a person with this many followers, because one, if they retweet it, it's not really going to be seen. And the only people who are going to see it is people that follow him still and appreciate him still. So it looks amazing. I'm sorry. This is manipulative on so many levels. And in reality, he didn't apologize. He was cordial. He didn't seem as unhinged as he was in a couple other messages that he sent to people. But I do think this was, yeah, he responded to somebody with what, 75 this time, another banger account for him to do it to. And I think it was safe because if the person retweets it, nobody's really going to see it, but the people that see his response already follow him and adore everything he says. I'm sorry. This was, by the way, smart, safe. His PR team's on it. Good job. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, this guy actually had a couple followers, but it's just an egg Avi. But yeah, 99% of the time it's always like 12, 17. And he specifically picks people who are not gonna fight back. Like just exactly like
I think,
I'm not trying to go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, I do think you were right. I think this one had like 225 or something. It wasn't like the 17 or the 75. So you were right. That's all I was gonna say. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, 4,000 something. But anyways, Chris is on a roll. He says Kirk feels close to his dogs because FSU fans put his ass in the doghouse. That shit's hilarious. And then he went on to say he had 9 beagles, all the same name dog, just dog. That's if you don't know Chris that well, he's not a bleeding heart for dogs like me and Chris, or me and Jen, and I just found out James is. The dog I was talking about, Charlie, wasn't actually a beagle, but since we're talking about beagles names, I did have one named Conway. It wasn't mine, but he was a family dog, and I can concur. They're sweeties.
I'm a bleeding heart for my dog.
Me too.
I didn't like my dog. I didn't want the dog. I said no to the dog. The dog showed up at my house. I was vetoed. And now the dog's here. The dog did everything in its power. I watched John Wick. That made me like the dog. But the dog does everything in its power to like make me like her. Like she listens to me. She doesn't listen to anybody else in the house. But she like comes up and like she's gonna force me to pet her. She's gonna do all this other kind of stuff. I don't want another dog. Like I'm cool. It's not because I don't like dogs. I don't want another person to feed. Like you can't not feed the dog. So like it doesn't matter how broke I get. If I don't feed that thing, I'm going to jail. Just like if I don't feed my kids, and I don't necessarily think that's right. But I'm not gonna like. But I'm gonna take care of Charlie. Charlie's my dog, my literal dog. But I gotta hop off. I gotta go do this pro day mess. Since I promised everybody that I would do it and stuff like that. But love you coming on. You guys like it.
No, man. Plug your stuff, man. I mean, it's 1:28. We're gonna call it an hour and a half. So plug your stuff, and we'll get out of here together pretty quick.
Den Media Group about to go hop on.
Yeah, we'll lead you right in.
Clips in the video that we have from Pro Day. Some of it's funny. Some of it's just really, really good. We'll answer any questions that anybody has. We'll give like some updates again, like where some of the guys draft stock. We'll talk a little practice talk as well. Just some Florida State updates or on that stuff. So seems like people like that. Hope to get to y'all numbers, man. Y'all be doing you sporadics, everybody else be doing numbers, man. So but we're gonna have a good time over there. It'll be on. I'd like you guys to show it up on YouTube. If not, it'll be on @BigMJames_36 on X, as well as it'll be on the Den Media Group too. So a lot of people like to watch on X. I just don't answer comments when people watch on X. I only answer comments on YouTube. So join the YouTube, however you want to consume it. Appreciate everybody, but should be fun. So we'll see you guys. I'll see you guys over there. Or if not, I'll see you guys next time I come and do the Renegade Report.
Absolutely. Welcome anytime. And, you're welcome to hit us up to come over there. Den Media Group right here on YouTube. We're going to say goodbye, and y'all get over there. And right as soon as we close this out, y'all can go see James. And if you're not subscribed to James's channel right now, I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, if you're looking for a show, he does a lot of shows in the morning. So it's
Yep.
like we kind of have our things spread out. Me and Spear Addicts days. Chris is Monday, I'm Tuesday. Then Chris is Thursday, I'm Friday. But James, I think you're what, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, something like that. Around 9 in the morning. Yeah, so it's nice to have somebody on our beat to listen to in the morning. It's few and far between. So y'all jump over there and they have a blast over there. Become a greenie, be in the live chat, and you don't get he really offers great access to his members all the way on up to the VIP. You see his guy, what's his name? Steve Stout, always with him. He's had him at practices and stuff. So it's really cool stuff. We love James. Jen, any closing words before we hit end on this thing?
No. James, in your show tomorrow, can you ask anybody if they've ever had a cat who has kittens? Maybe. Oh, he got off. If anybody has any advice, I would appreciate it because this thing's about to blow.
Everybody, prayers for Jen. She's got big time kittens coming up. I already told you I'll give you my mom's phone number. We'll get her linked up with you, and you'll be just fine. She'll walk it through it. My mom, Cynthia Georgitis, if anybody out there knows her in the reading area or listening area.
I think I have 9 days.
She's
I think
all
I have
about
9 days. If I look it up with the calendar, I think I'm right at about 6 to 9 days away with the way she looks and the way she's acting. So I guess it could be any day, to be fair.
Absolutely. Well, we look out for it, and I'm sure we'll get to see all those kittens. I think Jen said she's after a white one. So everybody say their prayers and cross their fingers. She gets the white kitten that she has. And Chris just going on the chat. Every animal we own, if it didn't do its job, it didn't stay. Hey, that's kind of how my stepdad is about every dog except for Charlie. And he's got one named Lulu now. So we usually have that one pet around the house. But yeah, they've got to work too. We are country in that way, but like my Lucy, she's the pet. She doesn't have to do much, but just eat groceries. And that's how that goes. But we love you all. We will see you again. What's today? Sunday. We will see you Tuesday. Who knows what we'll have planned. Again, we're still working on that Renegade Roast show. It's going to maybe next week, maybe the week after that. Who knows? We'll try to get that thing going before spring game with Tiny Hat and Jen. We love you guys, and we will see you next time. We'll leave y'all with... We might as well leave y'all with Carlos Williams and our guy, Trub Life. Since we used some language on this episode, might as well do it.
Hey, man. FSU versus everybody. Let's go. First off, fuck Bama in the Roll Tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Texas ain't shit to rave about. The Longhorns only good at it state.